Hello, everybody. I'm Al Neely, and welcome to Listen Up Podcast. Today, we have the authors of the book, The Wounded Black Men. As you can see, we have copies of the book here. We also have copies available for you. I'd like to introduce three of the authors. The book is 5 or 6 of you guys. Which one?
It's 6 total.
Six total. So 3 of them couldn't be with us. But let me start out by introducing Rodney Johnson, the visionary.
Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Thank you. Yeah, I'm Rodney Johnson, and I am the inspiration or the visionary for the Wounded Black Man. Something that was in the making for 2 years.
All right, good, awesome. And then here we have Rodney J. Johnson. Okay, I call him Coach.
Yeah.
Right? Say hello to everybody.
How you doing? Thank you for having me, providing this platform for us. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, and then a longtime associate of mine, William Daniels. He's introduced me to the book signing and the book. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, William Daniels, and thank you once again, and thank y'all brothers, community, family. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Johnson, you said you were the visionary for the book. So, tell me how this all came about.
2 years ago, I was actually laying in my bed and woke up with just going through some stuff. And the word came out of my mouth, man, to my wife, I got a lot of issues. And then the second breath that came was, they're not issues, they're wounds. Mm-hmm. So it started the wounded man.
Okay.
So then from that point, it went into me starting to analyze and talk up to myself and to my wife about the things that I was going through. And it took me all the way back to a long childhood time. But at the end of it, it went to, there's a lot of men out there that's wounded that don't know they're wounded. They think they're issues. Mm-hmm. So that's when the table came and said, write a book. Write a book. And in the process of writing a book, find some men that's really ready to extend their story out to help wounded black men.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I had started out with 13 authors. In the beginning, started out with 13 authors 2 years ago. And one by one, they started dropping off. And so it went on a pause for a second because I had to analyze what I was doing. And analyzing what I was doing, what I was asking men to do was open their chests up and show their heart. And men are not ready for that. Some men are not ready for it. But thank God that my 6 brothers that stayed with me opened their heart up and wasn't afraid to tell their story. Yeah. So as of June of this year here, the Wounded Black Man came out.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you pull your mic a little bit closer to you? Yeah, there we go. But how can you tell me how you know each other? So
Okay.
I think it's really interesting.
Okay. Let me tell you how it came. So I prayed about some guys, right? And I met William. Well, I knew Rodney.
I just dropped him out of the sky.
It just the names came. So names started coming to me.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, I know him, and I know William's story, and I know Rodney. So it was like, and I knew the other guys, and I was like, hold on, wait a minute, ask them. So Rodney, I know since we were elementary school,
Yeah.
give or take, middle school.
Yeah.
That's how far we go back.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
so and I'm a couple years older than Rodney, but it was always Rodney Johnson, and it was like, which one do you want? Because I'm Rodney in school. Yeah, I'm Rodney D, and he's Rodney J, and it's like, which one do you want? So it was like me and him went through that for a long time. So, but we always talked because he was in the coaching and I was in the coaching. So our relationship never died. It just kind of faded away a little bit, but we always stayed in contact. When something popped up, here we go, Mr. William, I met him through college.
Oh, okay.
I met William through college. Yeah. An old man going to college.
2 old men.
So
Two old men going to
But
college.
you did it.
and when I first met William and I connected on a whole nother level because
Gotcha.
I think we were the oldest two in the class.
Yeah.
And we was feeling some type of way about it, you know. So
That'll
you
bring
know.
you together.
you know.
To help with his homework.
Oldies for goodies.
Yes. So 'cause we're in school with 18 and 19-year-olds, and it's like William.
Oh.
But we have the experience in the class, so we ended up being the forte of the class because our history and our stories and our journey in life was greater than this 19-year-old kid that just finished school that doesn't have a story yet. And from that point, William and I would call each other. We need a powwow because he would go through something and they'll call me up and we'll meet anywhere. If it's 12 o'clock midnight, we would call each other. Hey, bro, tomorrow we need to set up a powwow and we're going to meet somewhere and we're going to sit and chop.
Right.
And that's what we've been doing since we met. It's about 3-4 years now?
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years now.
Yes.
Wow.
You know what I find amazing? You said you started out with 13 prospects to write.
Yes.
You know, that many men have pretty much, each situation is different.
Right.
But the crux of the issue is how to deal or not be able to deal with that particular issue that you're dealing with. That's a lot of guys.
Yes.
Okay.
But see, and that's why I came, because I was telling my story, and he
Yeah.
said, no, there's more men wounded with different types of wounds.
Yeah.
That's where the concept of get these guys together came in.
Right.
Yeah, it was funny because, as he said, we had a big text thread, and then as it went on, names started dropping off, and the thread started getting smaller. So finally, it was just 6 of us.
You know, Rodney was the guy that always said, hey, man, when is coming out? When is it coming out? You know, I could always reel out
Coach,
that.
I want a result right now. Right, Coach? What's going on? Come on. So, I want to get into the individual stories in a moment, but where'd y'all go to school? Where were y'all at school?
We went to school at Wave Leadership College,
Yes.
and so we started there, and it just kind of, went from there. We shared our stories. Of course, we were the older heads in class. And, with that being said, it did half of the stuff we said didn't make sense. No different when we were growing up, when we was listening to old people, and didn't make sense. And so, but I always used to say, man, y'all better listen to what he's saying. I always remind them about that. I said, man, I used to tell them, y'all better listen to what he's saying because he's dropping something. Y'all missing it. Uh-huh. And that's how it was. And so I was able to hear certain things that he was saying because when he came to school that night, because we went to night school,
correct.
he was like, he was raw. And he was ready to unpack, we going to a Bible college, and so it wasn't like we was trying to be religious, but, man, my daughter acted up, and his testimony behind it and how God dealt with him. And so, I was looking at, I was like, man, this is changing this brother. This is doing something for him.
Right.
And so through our relationship, I was able to just see that. Even with the Wounded Black Man journey to healing, I see my brother's journey. And what really blessed my heart was I was able to meet other people that was connected, Coach Rodney, and be able to share and see and listen to their story. And know that they were connected to him,
Right.
knowing that, my brother is going to be around some good people.
Right.
And so, but yeah.
Good. Coach, I want to start out with you because you're going to substitute for all my previous coaches that caused trauma for me. So tell us about your story. So what is your...
Well, the title of mine is called Outcoached.
Okay.
And, it's about growing up playing sports from junior high even elementary, actually, elementary, junior high, and college, you're always taught not to show any emotion. So I took that into my coaching, and when that's how I would get to my kids. Even if you hurt, you don't show it. But I couldn't distinguish from being a coach to a husband because I couldn't take those two hats off. Meaning, I was a coach at home as well.
Yeah, you were out there trying to coach everything.
Yeah, and
Kids, your wife,
exactly,
dog, everything.
and I just overlooked or didn't even really take the time to hear what my wife was saying.
Right.
So it got to the point to where she just and she couldn't take it anymore. And she checked out, and when she asked for a divorce, that broke me because I never had anybody. I mean, I loved her to death. And through my mistakes and my faults of my own and my pride kicking in, I just couldn't see it at that time. So when the divorce happened, and you're in that house by yourself, you got thoughts running through your mind, and I was in a dark place. And the thing is, I still couldn't talk about it. I still couldn't reach out to anybody to tell them how I felt.
What changed that?
I did a lot of praying and a lot of soul searching. And within that, I still get choked up. But within that, God started showing me things, and my eyes started opening to, okay, so I see where I was wrong. When I did this, I should have did that, and it was tough. It was hard. When those walls start closing in on you,
Right.
you got nothing but your mind, and it plays tricks on you. And there's things that you see yourself doing to yourself or trying to get even, because so many men are in that situation. It turns out bad for them.
Right.
I had the mental fortitude to not go that route.
Gotcha.
And I turned to God a lot. I mean, I was on my hand and knees.
Would you say that was probably one or very few of the ways you knew how to deal with things, just to be a coach and approach every situation the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't take the hat off, so to speak, at the front door.
Yeah. Did you, prior to that, do you have a lot of guys that you would be able to talk to and share your emotions with? 'Cause I feel like as men, I've gotten older and that's changed a lot, but I don't feel like growing up, I had a lot of guys that would either talk to me or even understand some of the issues that I was going through.
I did. I had my pastor. I had men in the church, but you don't want them to see you as weak. So therefore, you keep everything to yourself. And at some point in time, you're going to blow. Something's going to trigger you, and you're going to blow.
Right.
But like I said, I was in the mind frame that, I don't need to tell anybody. Right. I can fight through this myself.
Right.
And that was the totally wrong thing to do.
Right. Did you you find yourself? Did you have any other ways to cope with it, with substances or
no?
Did you drink or anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't do any of that. I just stayed to myself, honestly.
Gotcha.
And like I said, thoughts was bouncing off the walls left and right. And like I said, I had to be mentally strong to fight what I was thinking.
Right. Yeah.
How many kids you have?
I have one son, and he's 30. And
Is he a coach?
he does a little bit, but I'm very proud of him because living with me, he didn't take that mentality. You know, I mean, he did, but he knew how to shut it off. When I see him with his family, I'm just in awe because I go back to if I would have done things like my son, things would be different, maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get it. Interesting.
Wow. It's good.
So, Mr. Daniels, let's see. You're what is the title of your chapter?
Abuse begets abuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I took some notes. I think I started your notes off with wow. Okay. So some of the some of the things you talk about in your book, in the chapter of the book that you written, I want to know about. So let's go ahead. Tell everybody about.
Well, abuse begets abuse is a chapter that I really put emphasis on how I grew up in a domestic violent home.
Yeah.
And seeing my father abuse my mom and hitting and screaming and fussing and fighting. You know, one of the things I told myself when I grew up was I was gonna never be like my dad.
Yeah.
And you know, I was so adamant about not being like my dad, but in so many ways.
Yeah. You know what? I don't want to give. I want everybody to purchase the book. So we'll let
Okay.
everybody know towards the end where to purchase the book. But can you talk about one area that I read?
Okay. Well,
Let me tell you what it was. Mm-hmm. You probably know what it is. You probably get asked about this a lot. Where your father and your mother had a conflict and it was in the street.
yes.
Okay.
Whew, that conflict was it scarred me. It really left a mark on my heart, and so much to the point when I first got married, I had a bad dream. I had a dream that I was beating my wife, and I called the pastor. I said, "I'm not getting married. I'm not getting married." And from that, you know, my pastor was, thank God, he was a seasoned man. And I said, I don't want to get married because I don't want to be like my father.
Yeah.
He
this
told-
was constantly replaying in your head. Huh? Yeah.
And he told me, he said, you're not like your father. And
Pastor.
yeah. And, you know, that scar has been really hard for me because even now, even 6 months ago, I had a dream. Me and my father kept messing with me and he was trying to kill me. And I was like, leave me alone. And he kept trying to kill me. And in this dream, I had to fight my dad. And I had to kill my dad in the dream. And one thing that I realized in that dream was that I had to break all influence of my father off of my life. And, you know, it was that one day really did some things. And, you know, through that particular chapter, you'll hear me talk about how I wasn't able to recognize what normal was in a relationship. And,
That's tough. Yeah. That's really difficult. You said your parents' relationship, lack of success kind of spilled over into your life. Yeah, talk about that.
Well, it spilled over because, you know, yelling and fussing was the norm. It was what I was used to. And so in a healthy relationship, I wasn't able to recognize what was normal. You know, if I met a young lady or experienced something, it was yelling. Y'all saw that movie with Tyler Perry when the girl was Byron, Byron, just loud, he was like, this driving me crazy, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I was, this girl driving me crazy, but it was normal. because that's what I grew up in, and so it was it spilled over.
Yeah, there's something I want to know, but I'm sure everybody else is going to want to know. You talked about you were active sexually from the age of 9 through 17. We didn't talk about that.
But that came from I would say masking pain,
You were trying
Good.
that.
That's good.
masking
Yeah.
masking the pain early on, not recognizing what the pain was, listening to my other friends at that time, and thinking that sex at that time was going to fill that void, and it didn't. It led to other things, as far as addiction, sexual addiction in my life, pornography, and different things that God had to free me from, and it was just a wound, and as I continue to allow God to unpack different things in my life, I see it, and I'm just like, wow, God help me, give me strength,
Right.
this journey is a reality.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I have: intimate partner violence.
Yeah.
What is that?
Intimate partner balance is the part that.
Now, hold on, everybody. You got to buy the book. Put it in there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Good.
That's
good
right.
catch.
That's
I like
right.
that one.
That's right.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
All right. But anyway, yeah, I read your chapter and I went, wow. And it's kind of interesting because I can relate to just about all of them. Okay. I can.
Yes.
There was relationships. My parents had similar relationships as to your parents, right?
Yeah.
And I was a coach, and I have a lot of those tendencies that you talk about. But thank God to this point, I haven't lost any children.
Yes.
So let's talk about that, Mr. Visionary. Let's talk about your chapter.
The crazy thing about it is, this is what was so unique about this book.
Yeah.
Every story, every person, author in the book was a part of my story. So I had to kind of like find something else because
Yeah.
I coach. So I went through not knowing what you had to wear in the house. I grew up in an abusive home. I forgot my identity. So everybody, I was like, God, look what you did.
Yeah.
And that's why he said, you can't tell that part. Let him tell that part. Let
Yeah.
him tell it. So my part came from my son being diagnosed with cancer at 1 year old.
Yeah.
So 2 years prior to my son being born, I took care of my mother who died with cancer. And I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. I gave up my house and slept on the floor.
How,
Yep. Go
how,
ahead.
how did I,
How did we find out?
no, how do you deal with like your mom passing away and you're holding her hand?
The biggest thing with that was
I don't know if that's constantly
that's
going to be
tough.
played.
the thing about it is that growing up, I didn't have a great relationship with my mother.
Okay.
Because I heard my mother telling her friend she hated my dad. And then in the second voice, I heard her say, I was just like him. And I never questioned her what she said. I just took it. And I went through life letting that play in my head over. So I took care of my mother, but I kept my boundaries because she don't like me.
Right.
But when I got that call on June 1st, 2012 about my mother having cancer, everything stopped. And it was like, this is the time she needs you. And I was selfless and did it. I gave up my house and slept on the floor with my mother. I when we first got together, my mother was walking, and I just watched the process of the stages go down. And I remember one visit to the doctor, and my mother was in the wheelchair. I'm pushing in the wheelchair during this time here, and the doctor looked at her, looked at me, and she said, "I give her 60 to 90 days to live." That thing in your throat just, I was like, and I looked at my mother, and my mother said to me, well, I said to my mother, "We're gonna beat this just like you did," because my mom had just beat breast cancer. You understand? She just beat breast cancer, and now it's pancreatic cancer,
Yeah.
the big boy. So me being there with my mother, and I got 3 other brothers that pushed me in front because you can handle this, we can't handle it. You're built for this, and it's like, but y'all live with it all your life. But then I understood it wasn't their job. It was me to get with my mother and fix what was broken with us. And I asked her that question, "Mom, what did you mean when you said that?" And all from that point, it was like I forgot about her in the natural. This is how I cope with her taking her last breath. When the doctor said that, I released my mother in the natural realm, and I just dealt with her as a spirit. This is going to leave within 60 to 90 days, so I can't get caught up in this. So I'm just going to release her. And when she do pass, it won't be a burden on me. It won't be heavy on me because I let her go 90 days ago. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it was just dealing with her spiritually. People was asking me all the time, "How you do it?" It's not nothing you think about. You just do. You know what I'm saying? How can, if I think about it, I might miss a step.
Yeah.
And I remember the one day that I had a basketball game. She had just went to hospice and had a basketball game 9 o'clock that morning. And I couldn't find a coach to go coach it. I couldn't find no one. And I called her best friend and I said, "I need you to sit with Mom until I get back from this game." And I told my mother, I said, "I've been with you a whole year. Don't you leave me while I'm gone." And I went through my game and it prolonged a little longer. I was getting scared because it's now an hour later. So I get back, go in the room with my mother, and everybody's there, and it's like blah 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 boo boo hoo boo, and I'm holding my mom's hand, and I just felt her release.
She was waiting for you.
She
Waiting
waited
for you.
me.
Yeah.
And she released, and I just seen, and it was like, "Nurse, she's done." You know, and that was how that went. But we fixed the broken things. The wounds that was created was healed
Right.
before she left me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good.
But
Good, bro.
now we go into my son.
Yeah. You.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So go ahead and talk about your son and
So
what you entitled your chapter. Go ahead.
David versus Goliath,
Right.
the first chapter in the
Right.
book.
Comparison to the biblical.
Yes, because when David was born, David was my AKA back in the day. You know, that was, everybody got that name. And I just wore that name because of what my other name was, and I just was tired of that name being. So David was a powerful name to me. So when David was born, he gave his mom complications doing birth. I mean, he was fighting her doing birth. You know what I'm saying? So I drove tow truck for AAA, them overnight shifts, and I told my wife, "Don't you have that baby when I just come at 2 o'clock in the morning." Lo and behold, my wife at 3:45, "Hey, we got to go." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I just told you." But so we called David
You don't
King David
expect your
before
wife to listen to you.
at all.
Get that out on the table.
Yeah. But while she was carrying him, King David kept just coming to me, King David. So we named him King David from the jump,
Okay. Got
not knowing he was gonna have a Goliath in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Got
so
you. Yeah.
yes. So got a call one day. He was at daycare, and then David has vomit and laying in it and not moving. Oh my God, what's going on? Yeah. Long story short, that we picked him up. He came home, and my wife noticed after she gave him a bath that his body was looking weird, shaped like a football. And me being a man, but my wife is that nurser. So me being a man, he probably just got gas and need to go to the bathroom. no, there's more to it than this right here. And okay, tomorrow morning, let's take him to the doctor. They always diagnose him with ear infection and this and this and this. Never to the food. But one day when she did go, that Monday morning, I remember she went to King Daughters. And that's when we found out. That's when we found out. And it was at stage 3.
Yeah.
You know, and
1 year.
1 year old.
Wow.
You know, once he started walking, we was throwing footballs. I got videos of him running with the football when he started walking and doing these things. And then not even 6, 7 months later, you get this call. So my story in the book is really about faith. And what I learned from it is that he being my son and me having dominion and power over him,
Yeah.
there's no disease that's going to take my son.
Right.
And I learned that. And God told me that. He said, I said, why? I asked him, why you doing this little dude like this? This dude ain't did nothing. He ain't even lived yet.
Right.
You know, and he said, I prepared you for this. How? He said, remember when you took care of your mother? And you remember all the pastors, all the this that came over and how they was praying. He said, I showed you how to pray. And he said, call him by his name. Call the enemy by his name.
Yeah.
You talk about embarrassment in the book. So let's talk about embarrassment for a minute.
I mean, it's just, let's just think about the word embarrassment. It makes a big, bold statement by itself. You know, it's a lot of things that I did before. And it was like, you know, I was ashamed of a lot of stuff that I did and done. You know what I'm saying? Some of the stuff that, even to when my wife said it was this, and I was saying to her, no, it's gas. You know, it's a lot that I took in. And it was like, I was embarrassed about a lot of things in my life that I've been through. I didn't want to deal with situations, you know, and it was like, here I am with a woman. My wife is trying to be my best friend. I didn't know how. I prayed to God to be a good father. I never prayed to be a good husband. And then I realized,
Yeah.
I realized I didn't even have a good example in my family to know what it was.
Wow.
You know, everything was like, you know, so my embarrassment was not knowing how to be that for her,
Yeah.
for me, my life, you know.
Yeah.
I am ashamed of what I put myself through to get to this point right here, to healing. You know, it was a lot of stuff that I've been through that when I first started the book, I started out with my story. And I gave it to the editor and he said, oh, bro, this is 15, 16 chapters. But he asked, his first question was, how you still living with all this that you've been through? He asked, that was how you still living with all you, because my story is this big. And he was like,
Yeah.
just listen to some of the stuff you've been through. How are you still living? And that was the embarrassing part, because how am I? I mean, I'm just coping.
Right.
You know, depression didn't hit me.
Yeah.
Because I fished and I studied and I did things.
Right.
So the doctor was even, I had deaths in the family back to back for a whole year. It was like a lot of deaths in the family. It's like,
Yeah. You know, in the book, you talk about wanting to die. At what point, you know, all of this stuff is going on. At what point did you go, I think I want to check out?
when I got the phone call. My wife called me while I was driving from Suffolk to Virginia Beach, towing a car to Suffolk to Virginia Beach. And she was just going at it on the phone, crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And my first words were to her when she said, no, just get to the hospital. I need you to get here. And my first words was to her was, don't tell me my son is dying. And when I said that, at that moment, I was on the high rise, the highest part on the high rise bridge, and I was going to drive off.
Oof.
I was going to drive off
Yeah, that's.
because my son didn't do anything. My son is just born.
Yeah.
And
That
I
was
lost
a
my
big
mother.
process,
Right.
right, at that
I lost my mother, and I'm trying to understand why him now.
Yeah.
And that's when he came to me. He said, I prepared you for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that moment. I made the phone call back to her, wipe your tears. He working, not to tell the story in the book, but wipe your tears.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to Coach because a lot of people are married and a lot of people don't know how to deal with it, and that's exactly what you were talking about. What advice do you have for us, Coach, right now, as far as a husband and a wife in a relationship? What would you give to someone that can't express themselves, or they can't cope with whatever, or they're dealing with trauma from their childhood? What would you advice would you give to us?
I would say make your spouse your best friend.
Okay.
That's good.
And with that being said, I mean, yeah, you got male best friends, but make your spouse your best friend to where you can tell he or she anything, and you won't be judged for it. You won't be criticized for it,
Yes.
and just make that bond as tight as possible.
Yeah.
And going through that with your spouse being your best friend, you can get through anything.
Yeah.
My mom and my dad been together for 40, almost 50 some years. And, I look back and I'm like, man, that's a long time. But they made each other their best friend. And I think that's the key to success.
I hear you. Yeah. William, you've been married how long now?
But 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you get past all of, is it right? How'd you get past all of that to get to the point where you were successful at your marriage? I'm assuming you are really successful at your marriage.
Yeah. Well, it's
Unless you
the
ask Mrs. Daniels. I know.
yeah.
Right.
You need to do this. And
Right.
we're talking to the wrong person.
I would say it's the connection. My wife is just totally different.
I'm sure you told her all of this stuff. Yeah. At what point did you go, hey, I want to tell you something, right? It just, At what point when you were dating did you tell her this?
My wife she's just a different woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were able to tell her immediately?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
She allows me grace.
Okay.
And when I first met her, she told me her name was Levon. And so I looked up Levon, and Levon mean wood. And I was like, oh no, I ain't gonna mess with her. She gonna burn me up, right? No. And then, as we started getting down the road, and we had this one conversation where we connected, and we just found out each other's values, and it all made sense. And she said, my name is Grace. And when she told me her name was Grace, I was like, oh, right. I was able to relax, but I still had some things to get over, because it was one moment where we were in the movies, and it was we saw something in a movie, and it was something this girl had did to a man, and my wife said, well, you were holding my hand, but when you saw that, you let me go. And so my wife is very patient. She's very patient, loving, and understanding.
Sounds like she's connected to you too.
Yeah. And so she understands in different moments my highs, my lows.
Yeah.
And she's able to relate. She's able to bring me back down. She's not a fusser. She's not a holler.
Oh, yeah.
She'll sit back and she'll look at me. And sometimes, when I'm in my moment and, in my hooping moment, and she'll look at me, she'll be like, I said, okay, babe, I understand. I'm going to listen to what you're saying. And so it's been times where she has taught me how a relationship a healthy relationship looks like. And that's why I value her so much. And yeah, that's it.
I see.
That's good.
I'm talking about wives. I met yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the book signing, she was handling everything. So,
Oh.
so let's talk about your wife.
Oh man.
So, how did during all this time, what was her mental state? How was she dealing with everything that you were going through?
My wife.
And how has she adjusted since?
My wife shut down on me
Really?
and put all attention to him in the hospital.
Okay.
She just, it wasn't any about me anymore. It was about my son, her son, and in the process of that, I had to learn to be selfless again because I'm a man and need needs, and you're giving all it over there, and it's like, hey baby, I'm home. Hey, how? But at the end of the day, I realized that this woman needs me more now than any time, and don't need me in that physical form. She need me there to hold her hand.
Yeah.
She needed there to hold her head up.
Yeah.
She needed me there to give her life.
Yeah.
So I had to get out of me and get into life with her. So in the process of being at the hospital, I watched marriages crumble. I watched the men not be able to be there for them because they want all the attention. So I watched divorce. I watched people cheat. And he was showing me because he showed me that this is what she need you for, not that. And I ended up telling my wife, I'll stay at the hospital. You go home. So I switched roles with her. I took and made her. I put her to the point where I work 3 days a week, and I come in here that third night when I get off at midnight. I'll come in and you can go home, and I stay up until it's time for me to go to work again. So I learned how to be her friend. I learned how to be someone she can confide in and really talk about what she was going through, and that was my changing point right there. Because again, I prayed to be a good husband, good dad, not a good husband.
Yeah.
And at that moment I realized I was being a good husband,
Yeah.
and it helped me to start dealing with my wounds, to be able to sit down and talk to her, because at the end of the day, I wasn't telling her my story.
Yeah.
But then I woke up that morning, it was like, start telling you. So she's my best friend.
Yeah.
She's the best thing that has, and I've been married twice.
Right.
This is my second marriage, but this one right here is the one that flipped my switch on, cut that light on, to make me realize I am great because she tells me. I am a man because she tells me. And you are strong. When you're crying, you're strong. When you're showing your emotions to me, you're strong. And that's what made me realize this is her.
Yeah.
This is her.
Yeah. So the book is entitled "The Wounded Black Men."
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, all the authors are black.
Yeah.
What I see things all the time that that are culturally different,
Okay.
but men in general have a lot of these same issues.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think it can be related. But I also know that in the black community, some things are not emphasized. There are certain things that are ignored. And a lot of them are questions on someone's masculinity, right? So I think what I would like for us to talk about is, let's talk about those issues that are more prevalent that we know about that are in the black community, because I feel like there's it's just very recently where we're starting to have more focus put on mental health, being able to communicate, and it's not so much of a challenge to your manhood to be able to talk to somebody. I think we all need to talk to somebody,
Right.
you know. So we need that in coordination with praying and going to church and talking to our pastors. But was that the main issue for being able to, write the book, to be able to let other black men know that there's issues that are common to,
Yes.
that are
Yes.
cultural, that are common
Yes.
to it, and them not knowing how to deal with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So y'all talk a little bit about it.
I think, like you said, all nationalities can relate to this book. But for us as black men,
Yeah.
we have to know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to show your feelings,
Yeah.
because I was never one to do it. Honestly, I take after my mom because my mom's hardcore. And my dad, he'll give you a shirt off his back, and he wears his emotions on his sleeve. I wish I could be more like him. And it's hard. It's really hard for me because I'm one way and I'm trying to get out of that. So I think as a black man,
Have you remarried?
no, I haven't.
Okay.
As a black man, you go to your homeboys or your friends, and you really try to go deep, and they start clowning you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because, for one, I think they're going in it, but they don't know how to relate to it.
Yes.
So when somebody else does it first, they want to clown you. So then that makes you draw back.
Right.
And I just think, we all we got to be able to put it out there, and
Right.
it doesn't make you any less of a man
Right.
if you share your feelings, you let them know what hurts you, you let them know the pain that you're going through, because like myself, when you're in that tunnel and it starts to get dark, that's when things start to happen.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just think we got to be willing to listen and not judge, and not, hey man, just, you soft, that's, we just got to be able to hear our brother out, because nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors.
Right.
So
What were your thoughts about that?
I'm going to ride on the same length as Coach. One of the things that I would say that the black community is kind of missing is community. What
Yes.
we're doing now is the Wounded Black Man movement. We're just
Right.
not talking about a movement. We're talking about a community of black men able to come together and talk about these issues, these challenges, and not feel ashamed, but be embraced. That's we've been taught to be macho. We've been taught to be hard. We've been taught to be so many different things. Besides that,
Yeah.
and we've also taught what we see on TV, what black on black crime, hating against black people, etc.
Yeah.
But what's going to unify us is that we come together as community and realize that we're stronger together. That hey brother, I got your back. I know what you're going through, man. I got your back. That's what makes a difference. That's what makes and helps a man stay focused when he's getting ready to throw in the towel, or he's thinking about, well, I'm getting ready to get that. Yeah, I'm getting ready to get that hoe. You don't let me see my kids. Damn, I'm gonna come over there. I'm gonna tear up your place.
Yeah.
It's the reality of having strong men within our black community.
Yeah. We get, you just made me think of that. Lots of times the label of angry black man gets put on guys. And it's just like what Coach said, they don't know how to deal with it. So that's the one way that they deal with it. And people that don't understand it sees it as a threat,
Yeah.
right? And when you, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's for
Yes.
me to say. It's
Yes.
ain't dangerous for someone to act like that. And it's all because of there's no outlet, there's no understanding, and then you haven't been taught how to deal with things. So you deal with things one way, with anger.
Right.
And I found myself doing that, right? When I don't get when I have a fear of something, I get angry to get myself through it. And I used to do that. I caught myself. I don't do it now. I'm a lot calmer than I used. But that's the one thing that where I've always I used to deal with things. I would get angry because I was scared, right? And I don't think society sees it like that. So those guys are probably just scared.
Well, I would also take it a little bit further. Think about slavery. Think about what was put on us in slavery when it came down to us as black men learning how to trust each other. Learning it's something that's a little bit deeper, and it goes back to, and it has some ties to that.
I don't think there was any trust ever bonded having to do that. Trust each other.
Yeah, and that's where we need platforms like this,
Right.
to reestablish and strengthen the community. Let the community know that we understand your wounds, we understand your struggles, we understand what you facing.
Right.
Brother, I understand. I know how you feel when you got hit with the court.
So what I'm hearing is with the wounded black man, we're investing our story back into the community so the community can heal.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
What do y'all have? Are y'all setting up a platform? That's what sound like y'all dropping.
We,
Some
we, we,
hints.
we so the wounded black man has turned into a wounded black man movement.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's not just let's put this out here
and just leave it there.
Right.
It's now to the point of the reality is we put a story out there and
Yeah.
it can't die now because
Right.
men are waiting for us now. So we want to get into doing a men's conference. We want to line up with some people and really start talking about us as men, all shades and all whatever.
I'm in.
But in the beginning for me was when it first came to me, I'm a black man. And I look at my black man when I walk out my house every day and I can see the pain on their face.
Yeah.
And like you said, we don't talk to no one. The other races have those outlets they go to, but we as men, like go back to slavery, we were beat into shut up.
Yeah.
We was beat into take it to your grave.
Yeah.
As a coach, the first thing when that first guy get the hit with the shoulder pad, get up. We don't know his pain. We don't know the level of what we thinking that he's going through because he's not going to open up because you got a man standing over telling him, be quiet, shake it off, get back in line.
That's right.
And that's what we went through all our life. The black man has been going through, shut up, get in line, and shake it off.
Yeah. What I'm finding is, I'm bringing it down to stuff that I'm involved in, what I study and what I research a lot. The black man, I think the average amount, I think their average income is something like $35,000 a year. Okay. So when you say this, it's, the black man, I think it's difficult for people to understand because if you're making if you're well into the middle class, then you can afford to have therapy, you can afford to pay for counseling and things like that, right? So when you're saying this, Rodney, and you're saying as black men, you're not only looking, and when I'm talking about it as well, you're not looking at the middle class black person that can pay for this. We're talking about like a lot of guys that we grew up in the neighborhood with, right?
Correct.
Because those are the ones that get labeled as the violators. Those are the ones that catch the charges. Those are the ones that are constantly dealing with this on a regular basis. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you're saying that, that's probably the majority of who you're trying to target.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So, if you're wealthy, you can pay for counseling, things like that. So, but I think that's where most of the help is needed anyway, right?
And the small communities.
Right, because that's where we're losing a lot of good people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and that's probably like the majority of who you coach, right?
Actually, my high school is predominantly, and the sport that I coach, it's predominantly white,
Okay. All right.
But
What do you coach?
I coach wrestling.
Okay. All right.
So I can
I
say,
don't know football, but go ahead.
well, I've done it all. Coach football, coach
Okay.
wrestling,
Okay.
track and field. So I mean, I just been all over the map. But now my main focus is on wrestling. And I found out when I started changing myself and how I started seeing things different on a spectrum, I could see my kids different. I could see the kids that I coach different. As opposed to maybe I would see a kid and he was kind of like lagging in practice. My first impact would be, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I can look at, I'll look at a kid and say, something else is going on.
Right.
So it's time for me to pull that coach mode off and step in and be a mentor and see what's going on, with one of my athletes. They could be having problems in school.
Right.
They could be having problems at home.
Yeah.
You never know.
Right.
But I can now establish and take that coach hat off and be somebody that they need to talk to. Because sometimes you can't tell your parents, you can't tell your friends, so the other person that you can go to is your coach. And now, I can listen and sympathize. And
Right.
then, maybe give him some advice that's going to help him, get out of his funk,
Right.
Yeah.
So
it only takes one.
Right.
Only takes one. And with that one, then it starts snowballing. So, and I found out that how you treat your kids, their payback, they'll run through a wall for you.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And I've been successful. I've been up. I just see things different now.
That's good.
And it's bad because I saw it too late in my relationship. But I know what to do
All right.
now.
Are you looking?
I'm not really looking. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm grounded.
That's coach. That's coach.
I'm grounded.
Okay,
you know.
good. All right, so what's next? What do y'all talk about? What you give us a prelude? Don't give us too much. Don't divulge too much information, but give us a teaser.
So right now we're gonna go back down in the dungeon for a few minutes because I do want the other three authors to come out and be a part of. We got one that's in Texas. That is Mr. Sheldon Smith. He's in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We have Mr. Eric Clark, who's in South Korea right now.
Okay.
And Gordon drives tractor trailer. So he's all in about. So my main thing right now is for us to come to the round table, talk about the movement, and try to get to the point where we can set up a conference or set up a men's day
Okay.
so that we can open up the door for some Q's and A's and to see what we can do with our story. Because we want to invest our story in men that can relate to the story.
Right.
So that they can say, hey, if that guy can stand up, if that guy can heal, we're just a starting point for healing.
Gotcha.
And like he said, it's a trickling effect.
Yeah.
Once one person feel like, hey, you know what, I listen and I'm there,
Mhm.
it opens the door for another one. It's because if we speak to 10 people and one person here, we did our job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. We got shirts coming out. The Wounded Black Man Movement shirts coming. We have oils, natural oils and natural soaps, beard oil and skin oil for you. We're just trying to get back to the men feeling like men again, because as a wounded man, the women don't know they're wounded. They just think he's lazy, he's this, he's that. But if we would just sit down and ask the question, because when you go to the doctor, the first thing you ask, what does it hurt? This man is not getting out of bed. This man, or when he get out of bed, he has no energy, because wounds turn into more than just, it turns into death.
Right.
When you quit, you quit.
Right.
And we are here to help that man that got that gun to his head, or those pills in his hand, or standing on that ledge getting ready to jump. We're here to say, look, we were there.
Right.
So that's what we want to reach out. We want to be able to say, you don't have to, because we were there. So we want to go out in the community, build in the community, strengthen the community,
Okay.
and one community at a time. And
Right.
that's what we want to do. We want to sit down back at the round table and say, what's our next move?
Gotcha.
And if there's any people that want to come on at the round table with us, the door is open.
Gotcha. Cool. Contact information.
Well, you can reach us at www.thewoundedblackman.com, and you'll be able to see a little bit more information about the book and the authors, and yeah.
We have a Facebook, the Wounded Black Man Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
We're just getting started, but we're started.
Yeah.
That's the key to it right
Yeah.
there. We started. We found
Absolutely.
6 men that was willing and able to say, here, I will. And that's what we're doing now.
Gotcha.
You can purchase the book, oil, soap, t-shirts, all on the woundedblackman.com website.
Okay.
My email is Rodney at thewoundedblackman.com. William and them are all on the platform with us.
Okay.
All the authors, if you want to ask a certain author a question, you can send an email into, and they can get back with you, because it's us. It's not a me, it's a us.
Gotcha. Okay.
And, things of this nature, like you putting this on a platform,
Oh yeah.
it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And we really do appreciate it.
I hope so.
Yeah, most definitely.
I hope we touch at least one person.
That's all we
And
want.
all it does
We
is
do
one.
that.
Takes one.
That's right. They'll affect somebody else. at
Yes.
some point.
Yes.
So, all right. So that concludes today's episode of Listen Up. We want to thank you for following us. And we'll see you next time on Listen Up.